Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Today I've got the Five of Sticks, the Five of Bats as the obstacle, and the Three of Cups as the opportunity. So let's get started with this one. Here's some of the neighbors. Here's the exciting geometrical patterns of the Marseille. Very, very emotionally intuitive as always. No, anyway, so I see this card. It's the graphic is interesting. It looks very confusing. It looks like a confusing, chaotic state of activity happening in this group of individuals. So we're kind of beyond we're beyond the resolution of some sort of individual manageable relationship between one person and another person. It's a gang, it's a mob. Things get confusing in that mob. And I think insofar as this card deals with uh, how we relate to larger groups of people, I think this card deals with our relationship with the public and the public's relationship with us, our maybe our public reputation, how we see the public, how the public sees us, or at least how we imagine the public sees us. I think when we're dealing with the suit of sticks, um, the there's I think an element that needs to be addressed here that relates to impulses, urges, you know, the the kind of passions and drives that you have, and the when dealing with the public, our opinions of the mob, we generally turn down the resolution quite a bit. You know, we're not dealing with individuals. We just think of those people over there, these people over here, and we also find ourselves seeing ourselves as members of those perceived groups. Insofar as we consider how how sophisticated those people are, our people are, insofar how we see ourselves as being perceived of, in terms of our sophistication, in terms of our ability to deal with urges, to uh, suppress urges, to be free and express ourselves and act on our urges. It seems like there's no ideal middle ground that could ever have consensus. I mean, you could definitely find that in a one-on-one relationship. You could have a friend or a lover or a family member, someone, and you could, you know, you could recognize that they're the perfect amount of inhibited, they're the perfect amount of free, easygoing, uninhibited for whatever you like. But when we start acting on these larger scales, when we start looking at larger groups, I think it's impossible for there to be a consensus on what the ideal amount is. So that people always end up appearing, the peoples always end up appearing as either too free, too surrendered to their impulses, just pursuing their animal drives, or being too uptight, too controlled, right? So you're either this animal with no self-control, or you're this stuffy, conservative. You don't do anything. You don't have any creative thoughts in your head. You never do anything out of the ordinary. You can't have fun because having fun is playing, and playing is kind of chaotic and doing the unexpected. Um, yeah, I think the obstacle here could be simultaneously, not being able to increase the resolution and see things a little bit more specifically, and also to go a little too far, so far as the obstacle, to go a little too far in embracing what your, whatever category of person you feel like you identify as, whatever kind of group that you see yourself as being a member of. It could often result in just too easily accepting and taking on the types of behaviors that group identifies at, right? Some individuals, they're kind of free moving beings, but they find themselves for some other reasons associated with a group that they see as largely being defined by their saint-like patience and prudence, and then so they're like, oh, that's who I am, and maybe in that sense they're not acknowledging those aspects of themselves that are a little more nuanced, a little more personal. Inversely, there's a lot of people who have joined a group because maybe the family home they came from, or the learning institution, or whatever, where they came from was kind of uptight, and so they joined a new group that offers more freedom, that lets its hair down a little bit. But now that group is like actually making some relatively advanced demands of this individual. It's like, you should really relax. You should really not care about anything. Um, there's certainly plenty of places that offer the opportunity to overindulge in personal freedoms, and that there are certainly many places that give the opportunity to suppress those personal drives and passions just right into the ground, into nothing. So yeah, that's I feel like that's the obstacle here. As far as the opportunity, I was thinking about farming as a cool analogy for managing your relationship with the world. This card depicts these three people having a good time, maybe celebrating their first harvest or something. I really like the sentiment. It's a nice feeling, but I don't think this necessarily should be interpreted as something that is trying to draw our attention to a social gathering, how you relate to other people. I think this card is ideally used as a reminder of the kind of feelings that people are often overcome with or inspired by, that have to deal with their relationship to the world around them. And there's a lot of things around us in the world. We're not dealing with individuals yet, just like nature, the weather, like worldly kind of non-human things. And farming insofar as how people relate to the environment they're in, how they interact with the environment, is a cool balance between letting everything just grow wild. Imagine you bought a chunk of land. You bought yourself a couple acres. You could just do nothing. You could just let it go. You could have this. It's like the over permissive parent that like doesn't shape their child's development in any way. It's like, oh, I don't want to impose. I don't say no to my child. I'll just, they just let them do whatever. So it's like, oh, I wouldn't want to impose myself on nature here. It's just gonna grow. It's just gonna do whatever it wants to do. Um, yeah, I feel like that's certainly one extreme, and that's not how you farm, right? But then also that same plot of land that when you buy it, it offers it offers a lot of different resources that could be tapped at radically different times or timescales. So theoretically, everything on your land it's probably burnable. You could just mow down everything all at once and use it for fuel, and then you're going to be done. That's going to be it. You have harvested everything of value. You left nothing. Nothing's going to grow back. You harvested the roots. You harvested all the plants. You got everything. Just use it up as soon as you can. I feel like that's acting too much and acting too quickly and not taking into consideration the kind of value that the land could produce. The value of the things that it could produce over time, as opposed to just what you can get out of it immediately. And so I think farming is this interesting in between state. You obviously you let things grow, but you don't let everything grow. Some things are weeds. And by the way, it's an interesting word. I For the longest time I thought weed was some sort of actual botanical classification of a type of plant. Weed just literally means something you don't want there. So like a cherry tree could be a weed if you're growing, if you're trying to run an apiary and it's like in the way of your beehives, like this damn weed. It's just whatever you don't want. Anyways, so yeah, so farming, it's like you let stuff grow, but you don't let everything grow. You let it grow selectively, right? So you trim back the weeds, you trim back all the stuff you don't want, all the stuff that's interfering with the growth of the things that you do want. And then there's a certain amount of time that you let things grow, and then you harvest it, and then you let it grow, and then you harvest it, and then you don't over harvest. Um, you don't necessarily use everything of value from the plants. So you could chop down every single apple tree to get the apples and the wood, but then obviously you won't have trees next year, right? So it's like choosing what you take. Um, yeah, and I think it's a good analogy or metaphor for a really like a successfully managed relationship with the world around you. Things things happen, weather patterns happen, changes in the world around us happen, and sometimes it can be really tempting to act on things immediately and cash them in, particularly in a world that we share with other people. Maybe if I don't cash in on this thing, someone else will, and they'll get there ahead of me. But yeah, so in some cases, giving things a little bit of time to take shape before you maybe act on them or interact with them. Then also, you know, not just leaving things to be on their own, making staking some sort of place for yourself, and insofar as how you relate to the world around you. Um, but yeah, try out, see if you could come up with some imaginative, metaphorical applications of farming to whatever field you're presently working in. That's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching. Drop me a like if you enjoyed the video. Feel free to comment. Free reading with no hashtag now, just free reading on its own, to be entered into a weekly draw for a free one-on-one reading. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.